because a lot of big Hollywood budget films, they spend a lot of money on big name casts.
Yeah.
But it falls short on certain aspects, and that's including like the character development, right?
Yeah.
Like they feel like very one-sided as a character. There's no substance to the characters.
今回のゴジラマイナスワンの制作費がだいたい15億じゃないかって言われてて、
I didn't know it was that low budget when I started watching it, so I totally did not notice. I thought this was like hundreds of $1 million like going into this, but when I heard it wasn't, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
How do you do that with that low budget? 日本って本当にこういう細かい作業とかめちゃくちゃうまいなって改めて思った。
So they recorded it, and not like a studio, but they recorded it in like a big stadium. A big stadium so that they could echo it throughout. So like when they played the sound, it would actually feel like, oh God, I'm gonna die.
どうでしたか？めっちゃ泣いてる。めっちゃ泣いてる。今日はゴジラマイナスワンが世界で大人気な理由について話してみるよ。Let's find out! こんにちは、全人類と友達になろうと思う僕がミスターウキです。そして
Byron this and our wonderful member.
ヤナです。よろしくお願いします。
Great to have you, Yana. Guess what we watched last night?
Godzilla.
We did. We watched it last night. It's fresh in our brains. But 今日のテーマは
ゴジラマイナスワンが全世界で大人気な理由について。
Wow. Can I just say what a masterpiece of a film this was? Oh my God. It was actually jaw-dropping excitement. I have someone who watched my jaw drop right here.
Yeah.
何それ？
Like, I was like this the whole time.
Jaw dropped.
あ、ジョードロップ、顎が落ちる。
Yes. I was like that the whole time. Oh.
私もそんな感じで、
Yeah,
ってなってたけど、バイロもそうなのかなって思ったら同じだった。
映画館でさ、こうやって普通見るじゃん。こうやってね。バイロもずっとこうしてたから。
I was invested. I was like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? I'm shaking.
私ずっとなんかこんな感じで。
Oh, なるほどね。They can probably imagine like what kind of movie watchers we all are just from our personality. Yeah. And me like,
ゴジラマイナスワン。
yes.
今、全世界で大人気なんですよね。
Oh, yes.
というのも、アカデミー賞の視覚効果賞の賞にノミネートされてて、これものすごいことよ。
That's incredible. This movie didn't have that much of a budget, right? And in comparison to the other animated Godzilla films, right? Or big like kaiju films,
Like
right?
Hollywood films in general.
Correct. And for them to be nominated for special effects.
That's
いや、そう。
crazy.
今まで、ノミネートっていうか受賞してるのってやっぱスター・ウォーズとか、
Yeah.
タイタニック、アバターっていう、もうめっちゃお金 VFX にかけてますみたいな。
Right.
もうちょっとじゃあどんな成績を残してるかっていうと、12月1日にね、2023年のアメリカで公開されて、5日間で、アメリカの日本の映画の実写のランキングの1位にブンってなりました。今まで。
That's really rare for like a Japanese film that's not anime.
Yeah. It's usually like anime stuff, right?
Right.
で、プラス、北米の興行収入、81億を超えてて、それどういうことかって言ったら、アメリカの中の英語を使ってない外国語映画ね。で、パラサイトってあったじゃん。
Yeah.
アカデミー賞を受賞してる韓国のやつとか、中国映画のヒーローとかっていうのを抜いて、今ね、3位になってます。
Nice.
すごいね。今までの
Oh my God. Yes.
ものすごい。本当に。
Yeah. By the way, everybody, for those of you who have not seen the film yet, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of what Godzilla is and what we experienced inside of the film. So there may be some spoilers. ネタバレ出ます. So please, if you haven't watched the film, please go watch it first and then replay this YouTube video because, you know, I'm sure that a lot of people don't want to be spoiled.
絶対ネタバレない方がこの映画いいわ。本当に。
もう必ず見てきてください。すみません、お願いします。良さを語るとネタバレ出ちゃうからね。
まあ出ちゃうね。
はい。じゃあなんでね、ゴジラマイナスワンこんなにもう大人気なのかっていうのを、インターネットとか、まあ、僕らの意見でちょっとまとめてきたので、今日はハリウッドとの違いとかね、そういうのも含めて話していけたらなと思ってます。
ナイス。
まあその前にね、映画終わった直後にどうだったって昨日撮ったね、動画があるんで、それだけ、差し込んでおきたいと思います。はい。今、映画見てきました。
見てきました。
どうでしたか？
大号泣。
めっちゃ泣いてる。めっちゃ泣いてる。いや、びっくりした。そんな泣いてる。
もう一回泣き出したらもう止まんなくて。
これは
見てみたらフィジも大号泣。
いや、それバイロ逆に泣かなかったのあれで。
I was gonna cry once, and then I saw Yana, and I was like, stop.
Stop.
Yeah, she was crying. She said, stop.
めっちゃ面白かったね。
涙止まらんかったんよ。で、バイロ見たら泣いてなくて、じゃあフジ見たらもうフジも大号泣。初めてゴジラ見たんだけど、これで初ゴジラ。
初ゴジラ。初ゴジ。
初ゴジ。
初ゴジ。
こんなに感動すると思わなかったし、I don't know what I expected, but certainly not this good of a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
大いに感動した僕らのもう心からの魂からの話が今日聞けると思うんで楽しみに聞いてください。それでは行ってみましょう。1個目、人間ドラマが素晴らしい。
イエイ。間違いない。
ゴジラがね、今回わーってこう暴れるとこあるじゃん。暴れるところと、あとやっぱりこうヒューマンドラマというか人間関係とかのところの話っていうのが、まあ2つあると思うんだけど、この人間関係のドラマが素晴らしいということでね。
Oh yeah, definitely so. I think that a missing aspect from a lot of Godzilla films is the ability to have proper characters inside of the story, right? Because a lot of big Hollywood budget films, they spend a lot of money on big name casts.
Yeah.
Right? Big name casts. They spend a lot of money on animating the characters, right? And then
the fight scenes.
The fight scenes, and they take not terabytes, but like petabytes of like fight scenes, rendering all of this big budget Hollywood films, but it falls short on certain aspects, and that's including like the character development, right?
Yeah.
Like they feel like very one-sided as a character, and there's no substance to the characters,
Yeah,
right?
they're just like mainly there to like fight the monster, right?
Correct.
So with this Godzilla, I felt like the shujinko, like the protagonist, you could see like so many different facets of him, and it was like portrayed in a way that really pierces your kokoro.
Yeah. Yes. You know what I saw when I was watching the main character? I'm like, he's Itadori. Jujutsu Kaisen. It's like the same. He went through like the same kind of like pain inside of the movie. Well, that's a different netabare for those Jujutsu Kaisen fans. They utilize Godzilla as not only as a monster, but the source of this guy's trauma.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they play with a lot of survivor's guilt throughout the whole movie, right? And, they kill off his friends, and he has to survive, and he doesn't have the confidence to, like, fight the monster, right? And they like, slowly give him, like, more confidence over time. And, like, the only time he's bringing with confidence is when he loses everything, right? And you feel for him. You feel for him. It's like, he has nothing left to live for but him and the monster, which seems like an impossible feat. And you feel that. Right? And they really play along with this character in the end. He has like nightmares, right? He has all like these own battle that he's fighting with himself, not just with Godzilla. And so I think that Japan has a very, very good knack for creating characters like that, for creating characters that slowly like build over time, and in the end, like he's like screaming, he's like full of pain, like it's either he either kills the monster, or he lives a life of like agony after that. You know what I mean? He has nothing left to live for but just him and the monster. And I thought just portraying the character like that was absolutely incredible.
実際にこの舞台が戦争の終わりから終わった後の話だよね。で、実際にあった、戦争っていうところとちょっとリンクさせてて、簡単にちょっとストーリー最初だけ説明すると、神木隆之介さんが演技する敷島っていう主人公がいて、その主人公は特攻隊の人だったよね。もう飛行機に乗って敵にバーンって突っ込むって。でもそれが怖くなって飛行機が壊れたって言ってね、島にこう ちょっと逃げるというか、飛行機壊れちゃったんで見てくださいって島に着陸したら、その島にゴジラがブワーって現れて、で、そこで逃げてきた自分がまたそのゴジラを倒せずに勇気がなくて、で、いろんな人を犠牲にしてしまったっていうことがあって、自分は逃げ出したっていうこのトラウマと、そのゴジラっていうところからも逃げ出してるっていう、この逃げ出しがね、うまくリンクしてると思うのよ。
そうそうそう。それですごい罪悪感感じてて、自分生きてていいのかみたいなシーンやったじゃん。戦争で戦ってくれた方々ってそういうトラウマ抱えてる人多いんじゃないかなって思うし、そこすごくリアルだった。あとなんかアメリカの映画とか、まあイメージだけど、全ての映画じゃないと思うんだけど、その主人公がそういうトラウマを経験したとしても、強がってるところが多いというか、あんまりその弱さを見せない、トラウマがあんまりないように見えるところも多いかなって思うんだよね。だからここの作品でちゃんとそういう面もあるよっていうのを見せてくれたのがすごくかっこよかった。
You know what I really like about it? I think they wrote a complicated family very well.
そうだね、確かに。あれも面白かったね。
Yeah, you know the scene where they're all like talking among the table and they're like, "She lets me stay." He's like, "Damn it!" Right? It's like, yeah, it's more complicated than that. Like it looks like they're a happy husband and wife and like what's it called? They have like a kid, but they're all coming from like different families and they just wanted to survive together because of Godzilla, and Godzilla made their life complicated, right?
そうね。あと、戦争もあるよね。
Yes, yes.
確かに、こういう複雑な感じって、ないよね、ハリウッドとかね。
I guess not. Yeah, that kind of like feeling after war and then you have to find a different family because you don't have a family to go to. It's not really portrayed inside of Hollywood
まあ
films.
見たことないね。
Yeah, everyone has like a loving family and a wife. Or you lose your wife. Or you lose your wife in the war, right? That's usually a theme that you see, but you don't see these actual themes of war inside of the film, right?
みんな思い合ってるんだよね。
そうそうそう。
この映画って。
思いやりすごい。
そうよね。ということで、人間ドラマが素晴らしいでした。
Yes. Yes.
次、音楽、音がすごい。
イエイ。
Oh man.
Yeah, よかったよね。
Oh man.
My bones were like cracking.
Oh dude, just the whole sound design of the whole film was just
so good.
It was incredible. Yeah, they also play the credits too, right?
Yeah.
Like I think they used a lot of the original Godzilla soundtracks. Those really low horns like dun, 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 dun. It kind of feels old-timey, like kind of old school, but the way that it was portrayed in this film scared the living crap out of me. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, how am I scared of it? Like a 1950s like low horn like Godzilla, right? Like dun, everybody's dying, right? And dun, dun. I was like this. I felt so tiny. I felt so tiny just like listening to that sound.
わかる。すごい心臓ドキドキしてたんだよね。もう本当にやばい、これ落ち着かないとちょっとやばいわ。なんかゴジラ見てこなかった自分としてはこの曲初めて聞いたんだけど、でもあんまりなんか古い感じそこまでしなかったんだよね。
Right. You can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I looked up that they wanted to change the roar to actually sound like it's coming from a big like kaiju's like throat. So they recorded it and not like a studio, but they recorded it in like a big stadium. A big stadium so that they could echo it throughout. So like when they played the sound, it would actually feel like, oh God, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die if I hear something that like vibrating and loud. Like in the movie theater, I was just like, oh, he's here.
Terrified.
He's here. Like I'm dying tonight. That's how the roar made me feel. You know?
So powerful.
ゴジラの鳴き声のところ。
鳴き声も。
Yes.
あーってやつ。
Like, and they build it up so much too. Like, you can see all the spikes on his back. And then
the atomic roar.
I was like, whoa! You know what was incredible? The use of no sound in the last scene. That was so good. That was so good. Remember that?
あんな映画見たことないよ、僕。
Oh my god.
なんかちょっとね、最後の方でみんなが息を飲むっていうシーンがあったんだけど、今までドゥーン、ドゥーンってこう重低音で響いてたのに、そこで10秒くらい本当に音がそこだけパッ。
Because he was about to breathe fire, right? He was about to aim at the ship. And you're like, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? what's gonna happen? And I felt like if I made a sound, I'd be walking through the whole theater.
Everybody was stopping their breath. I couldn't hear a single person breathing. I paid attention to that. I was like, oh, my breath stopped. Maybe I was like kind of checking out what other people were doing. I did not hear a single breath.
I held my breath. I was like,
Me too.
everybody's the whole time. Oh my god. It felt like a roller coaster, honestly.
Yeah.
It really did. Oh my goodness.
So
yeah.
good. Such a great use of silence.
そうあと音楽で言ったら J-POP 的な音楽って全く使われてないじゃん今回、本当に必要なとこだけの音楽、
Right.
すごい良かったかな。
Well done.
あれ家で見たらもったいないよね。
Yes.
確かにもう絶対映画館で、
Go.
見ていただきたいですね。
Go.
重点もドゥーンってなるから。
You know?
すごいよね。AirPods じゃ無理よ。
ということで音楽音がすごいでした。次超低予算の映画。
Oh my god. What was the budget again?
今回のゴジラマイナスワンの制作費がだいたい15億じゃないかって言われてて。
Oh my god. I was still like invested that this was an actual monster like terrorizing the town, right?
I didn't know it was that low budget when I started watching it. So I totally did not notice. I thought this was like hundreds of $1 million like going into this. But when I heard it wasn't, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
How do you do that with that low budget? 日本って本当にこういう細かい作業とかめちゃくちゃうまいなって改めて思った。
普通のハリウッド版の映画、まあ、例えばハリウッド版のゴジラって200億とかかかるよ、10倍かかる、
Correct.
それはなんでかっていうとビジュアルエフェクトをすごい作ろうと思ったらめっちゃお金かかるじゃん、
Of course, yeah. And you have A-list Hollywood actors inside of the film as well. Those are probably
Expensive.
they're very, very expensive, right? If you have like these A-list cast members like giving your movie like more attention and more exposure because you have like these famous actors, and on top of that you have incredible VFX, you know, but it feels like we are not utilizing our resources on the right things, right?
Yeah, that's what I felt a lot with like Hollywood movies.
Correct.
Like, the story comes a little short, and it's just like they put so much attention on the fighting scenes.
Yes, yes.
That they don't have enough money left for the story or the character development.
そうだからちょっと思ったのは、今回ゴジラが出てるシーンヒューマンドラマの方が長かったじゃん、そっちの方が大事だし、プラスその VFX にかける費用がちょっと少なくなるよ、
確かに。
っていうのももしかしてあるんかなって考えたりもしたよ、
だってその、まあ、ゴジラの映画だからゴジラがメインっていうのもあるんだけど、でもずーっとゴジラ出てたらなんか you become like insensitised about it.
Yeah,
like
it's
it's
just
like
like,
oh
oh,
yeah,
he's
it's
here.
Godzilla. Yeah, that's him. You know. でもちょうどいい感じに出ててさ、ちゃんと毎回怖い。
VFX が雑だったら、なんだちょっとこう入り込めない感じあるやん時々、あれなんかこれちょっと無理じゃないこの構成みたいな今回完璧だったよね、
めっちゃよかった。
あんなんできるもんなんやね、
Right. I think like just coming from an American's perspective, I think a lot of people like I'm not saying everybody likes this, but I'm going to call it the Michael Bay effect. You guys know movies by Michael Bay? For example, Transformers. Explosion, 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 explosion. You know, and a lot of Americans do like a lot of action, right? If you have like Godzilla versus Kong, right? Big monster fights big monster, bam, 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 bam. Cool. But very, you know, aside. There's no depth to like a monster fight other than being a monster fight, right? But in Godzilla, right, the appearance of Godzilla itself made it so there would be trauma involved with his appearance every single time, right? His appearance, like it had meaning every time he would show up, right? And so that just goes to show how beautiful the visual effects were inserted into the film because, you know, they don't need a lot of budget to make Godzilla on what he is and what he is supposed to be like as a character, right? And I think that's what also makes this a really good film because you do not need to see every single detail in Godzilla's scale to make it an amazing film, right?
Yeah.
And Godzilla is a great product that has substance everywhere, not just in one area. Like it really feels like the Japanese balance. Not like, what? Invest everything into this and then everything else falls flat. That's a little bit of Hollywood
all
film.
Their eggs in one basket.
Right.
Yeah.
Hollywood film, it looks like a big mountain of gold just on the visual effects, and everything falls flat like this, like a very skinny tree.
It's very skinny.
Right? And then Japan feels like Mount Fuji, like this.
低予算の映画でした。
Yay.
次ゴジラが怖い。
怖い
Oh my god, dude. This is gonna enter my nightmares for sure, dude. I'm just gonna have the same nightmares that the main character was feeling after watching that film. Oh man.
I didn't expect him to be this scary, to be honest.
Right.
I mean, I had the image, like, you know, we went to the one in Shinjuku, right? And you can see Gojira on the building, right?
Yeah.
But it was way scarier than that.
No.
Like, what was that おもちゃって思っちゃったもん。
今回ゴジラがちゃんと悪者になってたと思うよね。
Oh, yes.
映画によってはゴジラは地球とか人間を少し守ってくれるみたいな立ち位置の時もあるんだけど、
そうなんだ。
そうでも今回もう 100% 悪者というか、
100% 悪者だった。
もうハリウッド映画とかはさ、モンスターが出てきたら、そのモンスターが街を壊してる。そのインパクトに、すごっってなることが多いと思うんだけど、ゴジラマイナスワンは、そのゴジラに家族とか仲間とかを殺されたりしたところで、大切な人をゴジラのせいで亡くしてしまったっていう、この実際の感情を共感できるっていうのが、ゴジラという存在がさらに際立ってた気がするよね。
So the cinematography really, really justifies how scary he is, and I'll explain why. So, for example, in the first beginning scene, right, like obviously, like you see the little details of Godzilla coming, right, like those fish like coming up above the water, like obviously he's coming. But the way that they film it, right, when you see people get eaten, you just see Godzilla's foot, but you see the mouth going, right, and that's all you see, right? That's all you see. That makes him more scary than, let's say, that you see Godzilla like in a wide shot where he's already eating like everybody out, and you can see what's happening, right? The reason why if you shoot it from the back, right, and you don't see what's happening, there's like a surprise element there, like, oh shit, he's gonna get eaten, oh man, he's gonna get eaten, right? And they have that aspect, and what they play around with a lot is the use of a low angle. Right. So, for example, let's say that we shoot the camera from like a really low angle, and I'm like here, right? That's like a display of like power, and you feel really small. Like we touched up on this, where you feel really small when you see Godzilla, right?
Yeah.
And that's on purpose because of the way that the camera angle was placed, right? Like you don't see Godzilla in a wide angle, just like, you know, going about the town, right? Where it looks like a diorama, where like Godzilla is just like, here, I'll do it for camera, like, right? That's how he looks most of the time, right? But they film it like this when he's looking down on you. And they also play with a lot of POV, like point of view, where Noriko, she's like dangling from the train.
Oh yeah.
Right? And then she just sees the monster. Right, and it's from the camera angle. She sees down, and you see the monster. She's down, and it really adds to like, oh god, like she's gonna fall, she's gonna die. Like, what's going to happen? So I think the cinematography is absolutely amazing the way that it was done.
ゴジラが襲ってきた時に、ノリコが電車の中でこうやっていたじゃん。何があったのって言って、電車の窓の外をバッて見たよ。で、カメラは電車の窓の外からノリコの顔をパンって抜いてる姿があって、この他に誰もいなくてノリコの顔だけがあって、ってこの顔で表現してるカットみたいなのが、すごいなと思って。
これがゴジラかって。
そうそうそう。顔で表現されてる感じっていう、あのアングルもすごいなと思って。
Yes. Because it makes you guess what the heck is happening out there. Or it's like you can kind of like imagine. Right? And which goes to show they don't have to show Godzilla every time, which goes into the budget, right? There's more emotion on a face than there is like Godzilla terrorizing the town, right?
そうだね。でも必要な時に必要なゴジラを使ってるってことだよね。逆に言えば。
One thing that I also want to point out is I really like the use of the Jaws influence throughout the film, right? Just imagine instead of Godzilla spikes, it's a shark fin.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like it's it's coming, it's coming. You know it's there, and then it gets closer. Dun 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 dun. And he's like gaining on like the ship, right? And then as he's gaining on the ship, he finds another ship, and you see him totally obliterate that other ship.
Yeah,
and you're like,
that was so scary.
we're on a smaller boat. Like, what is he going to do to us?
Our
right?
like little wooden boat.
Yes,
Like, what are we gonna do? You know?
right. Like it's like, oh, when they first introduced the boats, yep, this is the boats. We're gonna be shooting mines and stuff. I'm like, oh man, this tiny little boat.
But it just really shows like how post-war Japan did not have that many resources, right?
Right.
To fight. That's all they had.
Yeah.
They did their best with what they had left, which was, I feel like, kind of accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't there, but it felt accurate.
Because like Jaws was also done like on a tiny little canoe.
No.
Right? And then they're like trying to get away from Jaws, and then so it's like, yeah, how are you gonna get away from this great white shark, right? Oh man, but I really liked that. Godzilla was incredibly scary, and I was shivering at the fact that the roar was coming. Like I felt like I was going to die.
Yeah.
Every time he was gonna come out the screen. I wasn't even wearing 3D glasses, and I felt like he was gonna come and like just eat me.
Yeah.
Well, Fuji, you were talking about, he was actually like the villain, but in all of these aspects, like it didn't feel like a monster movie. It felt more of a horror movie.
Yeah.
It felt like, you know, like something was coming every time, and there's all like these different horror elements that are there, right? Like you have the main character getting completely traumatized by this big monster that comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know, what's the difference between that and a person being possessed by a demon, right? You can see those similar aspects in this movie as well as horror films, and I really like that. Making a monster what a monster's supposed to be. Scary!
Yeah.
ゴジラが怖いでした。
Yay.
次、演技がすごすぎる。
いや、本当にそう。
Oh my god.
It was so good.
そう、敷島がのりこを失った時のタイミングで、神木隆之介さんの演技で、はっはっはっってなんかこう、その前後のシーンを知らなかったら、ちょっとおかしくなっちゃったのかなみたいな、そんな演技じゃん。でも、多分人間って、極限状態になったら、こんな感じになるんだろうなと思って、そういうシーンが神木隆之介さんほんとすごくて。いや、あれはもう。
それめっちゃいいと思った。
I think the scene that I thought that was really riveting was when he was fighting his demons in the bad dream, and Noriko was like, "Oh, let me like share some of that pain with me. I want you to tell me like what's going on." And I just feel like that interaction between both of those characters was really real, because if you have trauma, you don't go like, "Oh, by the way, I'm traumatized." Yeah, there you go. No, you have to get it out of them. Like, you have to press and press and press. And usually they let it out, you know, once you've asked them, like, enough questions, right? There's a proper wall that you have to break down in order for someone to have a heart-to-heart with you. Because, you know, if you have this trauma where, like, all your friends died and it's all your responsibility that you didn't do anything, then you can't just say, "Oh, yeah, my friends died. Yeah, that's why I'm like this." Right?
You can only say that when you've already opened up that trauma and
Correct.
like, healed.
Correct. At the root of being human, we don't like opening up. And I just thought that exchange of, like, I'm trying to help you, like, please let me help you. No, I don't need you. I want to fight this battle on my own was super real to me. And I was convinced that these were actual problems that they were having, as opposed to, like, I don't want to talk to you. I just have a lot going on. He was not like a cool guy, right? I have a question. So, like, you know, during the mail scene where, like, the guy was like, "What do this?" And he's like, "お願いします!" And he slammed his head on the table.
Yeah.
So can I do that in real life and it'll work?
絶対やめてください。
Oh, okay, alright.
ちょっと面白いな。
あのシーンね。お願いします。でもなんか不器用さが出ててよかったけどね。なんかということで演技がすごすぎるでした。はい、ということで今日はゴジラマイナスワンが全世界で大人気な理由について話してみました。どうだった？
I think it was interesting picking everyone's brains and explaining all these different aspects on why it was such an amazing film, right? Because, you know, there's a lot of movies don't really hold my attention as much anymore.
Oh, yeah, me too.
I don't know if that's due to ADD or that's due to, like, me being bored with the film, but, like, this one, it just kept me hooked the whole time. There was always something new to offer at every single corner of the film. And I highly recommend it to everybody well, actually, people who have watched the movie should already be watching this YouTube video. But please, if you haven't watched it, we just spoiled the whole movie for you. So please go ahead and see the film if you haven't yet, because it's worth a watch for sure. Please go.
Because usually when I watch movies on my computer or something like that, I watch it while like looking at my phone. Because I get distracted because, I don't know, ADHD, TikTok, make it make sense. I don't know.
Right.
But with this movie, I was just hooked the entire time. And every scene is important and every scene is good. So it's rare for me to say this about a movie, that it's really this good, I think. This one, I was so surprised. I didn't think I was gonna come out of there like sobbing, crying because of a monster. So yeah, it was a really great movie and you should definitely check it out.
Yep.
アニメね、めちゃくちゃ日本強いじゃん。それいろんな理由がね、もちろんあると思うんだけど、絵が綺麗とかストーリーが深いとかね、いろいろあると思うんだけど、さすがに映画は使うお金も全然違うし、これ無理かなって思ってたと思うのよ、僕含めて日本人。もうこれから日本の時代ですよ、エンタメは。
There we go. 2024.
でも本当にすごい嬉しかった。これがアメリカですごい受けてるっていうので。
It's good. You gotta watch it. I mean,
what's not to like?
98% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is a critic's website for a bunch of films.
Crazy.
98%. It's like the Tabelog of movies. You know how Tabelog is very strict in like their reviews? You know, like even 2014 Godzilla got a 74%, which is pretty good. But this one, 98% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and audience score. How do you get both of those scores? It must be very, very good film.
Yeah.
That's the only explanation. Okay, everybody, this is the part where Yana gets to plug in her socials. So if you are interested, please lend her your ears.
シンガーソングライターのやないもです。作詞作曲編曲楽器演奏レコーディング全部自分でやってる人間なので、ぜひ Spotify など YouTube などチェックしてくれたら嬉しいなと思います。そしてやなっちチャンネルでは、トーク系の動画が上がったりするので、それもぜひチェックしてみてください。
やなちゃんの SNS は概要欄貼っておきますので、皆さん必ずチェックをよろしくお願いします。他に僕らに話してほしいトピックがあればコメント欄までよろしくお願いします。
We know that we usually talk about music, okay, and Yana is a singer-songwriter, but this time we wanted to talk about movies. So if you really like this video, give it a like, I don't know, share it with your friends, and then we'll review more Japanese movies on the channel, right? Because, you know, we do like music, but we also like films. We like good films. So if you have any recommendations for us to do, please put that in the comments.
それでは次の動画でまたお会いしましょう。バイバイ。チャンネル登録お願いします。